What is up, everybody? Welcome back to a special episode, a London Packers episode of Talk of the Tundra. I am your host, Numac, and joining me this week for a little footy in it is Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Wales. No, I'm doing well. Apologies for my nasally, cold-ridden voice. I am fighting. Uh, so I don't know, a cold, but I'm prevailing right now because you got to get it for the podcast, people.
A bit of the sniffles.
A bit of the sniffles, yes.
That's okay. That's enough. That's enough. Obviously, we are excited to cover the Packers going to London this week for the first time ever against the New York Giants. But before we get into that, we have some housekeeping business to get through regarding last Sunday's game against the Patriots and have some cheese to give out. Like we had mentioned a couple weeks ago, we are going to start giving away cheeses on the preview pod as it gives us a chance to go through the L22s and some of the grades for the players we don't really see that often on the screen, like cornerbacks and sometimes the linebackers, the offensive linemen, tougher to watch when you're watching Rodgers and the specialists and things like that. So, couple of the cheeses to hand out, earning a nice slice of Munster. Romeo Dobbs, Aaron Jones, Lazard, Jaron Reed, Rudy Ford, and Darnell Savage for their efforts this past Sunday. In particular, Alan Lazard and Aaron Jones standing out with over 100 yards in their respective areas. 110 yards rushing from Aaron Jones, 116 yards receiving from Alan Lazard. And then just shout out Rudy Ford too. Rudy Ford had a really good game filling in for Adrian Amos after he went down, so really good stuff there. Then earning a pepper jack for his dominant game against Bailey Zappi and the Patriots was Rashawn Gary. So, uh, Jordan, anything to say on our cheese and dairy eating Packer friends?
Hard to quibble with any of those. I think Rashawn Gary, again, has been off to a torrid start. That's a word that people use when they want to sound smart, hence why I used it. Alan Lazard, Aaron Jones really carried the offense. Rudy Ford, as you said, coming in for Adrian Amos, who it sucks when like someone gets hurt that is like this key starter
Mm-hmm.
and he gets hurt on a good play. Like
Mm-hmm.
he wrapped up forget the wide receiver for the Patriots, but
Yeah.
wraps him up, and it was just like this weird play that he just gets a concussion from. But
Yeah.
yeah, props to Rudy Ford for stepping in and not really losing a step in that area of the Packers defense.
Yeah. Big props to
Um,
him. 6 tackles, 2 targets to his side or his receiver for no yards, no catches, and a pass breakup. So he did really well filling in.
yeah, both Packers safeties too. Obviously, as you mentioned, was Savage getting some cheese.
Yep.
Am I missing anyone else? Did I
Nope.
miss anyone? That's it. Yeah,
Uh,
that is it.
go through them again. Dobbs, Jones, Lazard, Jaron Reed, Rudy Ford, Darnell Savage, and then Rashawn Gary. Rashawn Gary
Okay.
looked like he was gonna take out Billy Zappi's career on his first drive. He was rushing him on like the 4 yard line, but luckily
Oh
Zappi
my
got away.
god, he is just so explosive.
He tied for third in sacks with 6 this season, or 5. I think it's 5. It's 5.
We'll give him 6.
No, because 6 is first.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it's 5. I'm gonna go with 5. But to recap this season's cheese board, the charcuterie board, if you may. Um, Topping the list, predictably, is Aaron Jones and Rashawn Gary with 4. And then we're going to go through the list of 2, and hopefully we get them all. A.J. Dillon with 2, Quay Walker, Jair Alexander, Aaron Rodgers, Preston Smith, Pat O'Donnell, Romeo Dobbs, Devondre Campbell, Keyshawn Nixon, and Kenny Clark. And with 1 is Zach Tom, Eric Stokes, Razul Douglas, Mason Crosby, Sammy Watkins, Elton Jenkins, Al Lazar, Jaron Reed, Rudy Ford, and Darnell Savage. So we will have the Substack ready for you guys this week, and you'll be able to go back, reference that, and see what the leaderboard looks like throughout the season. Jordan, should we jump in to what is a historic week in Packers football? A
Not just that. I believe I saw today across the Twitter sphere.
Okay.
This is the first London game in 32 games
Yep.
that features two winning teams.
Yep. Two teams above 500. And
How does that happen?
they
Besides the fact that the Jaguars, it's their part-time home, so that kind of explains some of it at
that's a
least.
lot of it.
Yeah.
That is a lot of it that the Jaguars were the primary London team for so long, and they didn't have that good of a record for most of those years. That's why they were
But you
trying
would
to
still
build
think
their
like
base.
that overlapped when they went to the championship game with like the Jalen Ramsey year, right? Maybe
Right.
they just had a
They just
cold
had a
start.
bad opponent or something too.
Yeah, that is true.
But it's not
I
like
feel like
the Packers or the NFL planned this.
no.
Like the Giants are 3-1 and nobody expected them to be 3-1.
Yes, the Giants who have a 5 plus 5 point differential, which is 1 point lower than the Packers point differential at 3-1.
So I guess we
Good.
can't. People in glass houses shouldn't throw stones or pounds. They call them over there. I think.
Yeah, throwing pounds.
Gotta stop. But no, I
Sorry.
think it's really cool to be finally going over there for the Packers. Like getting into like as I mentioned when we first started the podcast and I sort of introduced myself. I'm from Green Bay, and I all I've heard my entire life is talking about people from all stretches of the United States and stretches of the world being Packers fans. They have just this national and global presence as a football team, and I couldn't really tell you why, as to why there's one of like the most popular teams worldwide and across the country. Maybe it's just because they were the team when the NFL was first organized, right? I don't know, but I think it's really cool to be able to give the fans in Europe and in London the opportunity to see an Aaron Rodgers led team and a Packers team essentially, be playing over there, especially in a time when they're still good. And it stinks they had to wait this long. I think it is mostly because Mark Murphy and the rest of the Packers people didn't want to give up that home game. You have to give up to go to London. But now that there's 17 games in a season, you get the extra home game, so it's basically just a wash for the Packers now going over there. So, I guess Jordan, what are your thoughts on it being a Packers fan being over to going to London for the first time?
I think it's fun. I mean, it's largely based on that fact of Packers were never really. It wasn't even like they were rumored to be like in consideration. It was like, okay, you have at least Jaguars going over. There's the occasional like good team that goes over
Mm-hmm.
there, like maybe the Saints or something. But like
They played last week.
that, yeah, yeah, yeah. In fact, that was like a non-starter though, and like in with the Packers, kind of just made like all the London games. Like I didn't really care,
Right.
by being completely honest. But now that it's their turn and they're finally taking the chance. The other thing too is that like they could easily make it up with it helps that they have an extra game, but they also will make it up if they have another good season and have another home playoff game.
Right.
Hopefully two.
Hopefully too.
Hopefully two.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you said, I think it's just for whatever reason, this little team out of Green Bay just kind of brings on the Harry Styles of the world, a famous Brit. And just it's just it's weird to think about that like the Packers are this worldwide brand
Yeah.
playing in a league or a sport that really just only exists
Yeah.
professionally in North America.
Yeah. That isn't a
But
worldwide sport.
yeah, but I will say I think maybe it does have to go with like when NFL Europe was a thing. I'm old enough to know about NFL Europe and the fact that it was in Madden games, which is even crazier.
Right.
Um, that is when the Packers started to have their renaissance under Ron Wolf, Mike Holmgren, of course, Brett Favre.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe that's maybe
Vikings
something.
legend Brett Favre.
Yes, Vikings legend Brett Favre.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, maybe that has something to do with it, or just the name. It also could be just the story of it, the fact that it's
Right.
this little team and it's owned by the community. It's not owned by one person or anything like that.
Right.
I don't know, but it's very cool to see.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think like giving like that is like my local perspective too. Um, I knew a lot of business owners in Green Bay, and I knew a lot of bar owners, and uh, my family was like a small business owner in Green Bay, and like the amount of money that the Packers bring into the community on football Sundays is a lot. It's really important for the local economy. I'm not saying I disagree with the Packers' choice not to do that because obviously the Packers make money uh, having home games and benefiting off of all of the fans coming to the stadium. But I'd like to think that since it is a community owned and a fan owned team, that they had sort of the community's best interests in mind and understanding that if you were to take away a home game from this local community, it costs them millions of dollars in tax revenue on a Sunday when you don't
Hmm.
have it. I remember like really realizing this was when the Fail Mary happened. I believe it was I forget the mayor's name, Mayor Schmidt. I forget his first name. Wrote a letter to the NFL asking them to end um like to further negotiations with the referee union to bring the original refs back because one game in a 16 game season when they lose like that on a call that is wrong has playoff implications. And if the Packers would have lost a home game over that, that would have cost the local economy, like I said, millions. And so
Hmm.
it's just really cool to see that maybe the Packers were thinking that way. And, and I understand that's probably not totally their entire way of thinking, but it's nice to see that kind of be made up for with the same amount of games. And now they get a chance to grow that brand even more than it already is cross country and across the world.
No, I think that is a. I don't think I've even heard the story about the mayor
Yeah,
writing.
I will look it up quick while you talk.
Um, but to your point of like just the overall business effect on it, I mean, that was a huge thing with COVID and the fact that they couldn't have fans in the stadiums and all that stuff. And just, I think it was even Mike Holmgren himself, like he was pledging just like how much this would devastate Green Bay because of just, everything is so banked in on the Packers being a successful team and being a destination, Green Bay being a destination for what 6 months out of the year, if you're including like training camp and
Hmm.
all this stuff. So yeah, that is an even more relevant point with why it has taken so long. And you know, obviously it just falls under like the greater good of maybe you get some new fans across the pond and want to make the trek out to Lambeau and all that stuff, that by doing something like this, that you're, making that calculated step to kind of be like, okay, it might hurt this week, but then we got how many more home games? Six?
Yeah.
Yeah, six more home
Yep.
games, and then hopefully another home playoff game too.
Right.
So yeah.
No, it's good. Just of the quick Google, I got to the wiki page of the Fail Mary, which has its own Wikipedia page, and it's lengthy at that. Um, then Mayor Jim Schmidt was his name.
Mm.
Sent a letter to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell stating, quote, as an elected official and public steward, I'm concerned about the impact on the integrity of the game and the significant financial effect that it may have upon our community. So yeah, that it was important that like it was that important, which like then
Wow.
yeah, so um overall, really cool to see them go over there. I'm hoping that I see a lot of green and gold in the stands. I'm sure I will, just to help further that point. But we'll probably see a certain couple people over there. Maybe one Aaron Rodgers lookalike.
Frank Bar I think he's they had it on the Bears Sunday night game.
I
I
hope they
forget
don't
where he,
hold him hostage like they did during that game. He looked so
yeah,
awkward during
they're
that.
just gonna roll him out everywhere out across the field. He's gonna catch the game winning touchdown. It's like you don't even play football.
You don't even go here.
You're not even on a 53 man roster.
But yeah, I think it'll be good. I'm hoping that it doesn't like I'm always nervous for like international games, like especially like the London game, is it's to travel across the Atlantic to get there, and it's a lot of travel and just it's a weird game for a team during the week. I'm
Oh yeah.
hoping that it's a good game. If it was like if it's a stinker, I'm gonna be disappointed, but that's beside the point. So regardless, I think we should be in for a good game.
Mhm.
Maybe even one like the Vikings Saints last week, where they went to had the game winning kick, I believe it was
That is true. And it featured a double doink.
a double doink. Yeah,
They'll rope
28.
anybody in,
That'll rope
even though it's the
anybody in.
last play of the game.
Right. It'll keep some people around for more. But yeah, let's hop into a preview about it this week. Packers going against the 3-1 New York Giants, which, as I said earlier, nobody really expected. But 3-1, mostly, we'll do it 50-50 this way. 50-50 of 50% of it being they haven't really faced anybody. Their 3 wins come against the Panthers, the Bears, and the Titans. The Titans look like they're kind of okay, kind of good, kind of bad. They're not really consistent. They're the Titans, I'd
Yeah.
say. And they
Yep.
lost to the Cooper Rush led Cowboys by a touchdown. So um, overall, a little surprising that they're there, but also not so surprising considering 2 of their wins are against the Bears and the Panthers, who are abysmal.
Yes.
So, and surprising they won against the Bears, given that Daniel Jones was pulled out of the game because of his ankle injury. Tyrod Taylor came in, got a concussion, and had to put Daniel Jones back in, and they still won. So maybe that tells you more about the Bears than it does the Giants. Um, but
For both.
I think it's worth noting that all these games are really close. They beat the Titans by 1, beat the Panthers by 3, lost by 7 to the Cowboys, and won by 8 to the Bears. So all one-score games. So we could be in for a nail biter. It
Mm.
seems on Sunday.
Yeah. Given how this season has trended too.
Yeah. And the other 50% of that 50-50 margin of why they're 3-1 is the rushing attack. Saquon Barkley looks like the Saquon Barkley we expected him to be as a player. Leads the league in rushing, right, Jordan?
Yes, leads the league in rushing. I believe it is. Let me bring it up here. Sorry, I'm vamping. So
Vamping,
many
vamping, vamping.
tabs. So many tabs. This is why I should be organized before. Yes, 463 rushing yards. Not just that, he has the most yards from scrimmage with 570. So yeah, it's not just a matter of Saquon Barkley looking like this historic. Yeah, he went number one, right? He
Two.
was two.
Two.
Who's number one that draft?
Vamp some more, I'll tell you.
Hmm. Anyway, it's not just a matter of Saquon Barkley looking like the most historic running back prospect in the last 10 years. They have identified him as the workhorse. Obviously, Brian Dable, first year head coach too. Um, Kind of makes sense just because Daniel Jones is Danny Dimes
Danny
as what they
Dimes.
call him. Um, kind of know the story on him, just very turnover prone, not
Yeah,
unlike his predecessor Eli Manning
fair
in a
enough.
lot of ways.
Right.
And Saquon with good health and his legs under him has been running all over the field.
Yeah, I think first overall pick that year, by the way, was Baker Mayfield.
Oh, that was that draft.
Baker, Saquon, Sam Darnold.
Oh, two Panthers and a Giant.
Yeah, pretty much. But
Wow.
yeah, Daniel Jones he's fascinating to me. He's a quarterback who seemingly can't get out of his own way sometimes, and like every time I think about him, the only thing I think about is he had that breakaway like 60-yard touchdown run and tripped over his own feet to not get a touchdown. And I feel
That's
like
right.
that is the encapsulation of Daniel Jones as a football player. Like he has some of the ability, he just can't put it all together in order to be a successful NFL quarterback. Um, he's got the legs for it too. He's a sneakily good runner. Like I think both of his touchdowns last week, he had 2 rushing touchdowns. Um,
Yes, he did.
were both scored on like bootlegs at the goal line. Like you think like bootlegs are reserved for people like Lamar Jackson or Colin Kaepernick of old and like running quarterbacks, not Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I the name that comes to mind, and we saw him a lot over the years, especially when he was drafted by the Bears. Watching like Mitch Trubisky play an NFL game,
Right.
it was like, oh yeah, you want to if you want to get the best out of him, get him on the ground and you like utilize his speed. He's not that great of a thrower. He it's not like the Bears had great weapons with him outside of Allen Robinson, who's just perennially under targeted or underserviced in every team that he goes to.
Right.
But it's like you watch someone like that, and it's like, okay, he's clearly not like an ideal starting quarterback, but he's going to play for 10 years
Right.
because there is going to be use for him, or some team will always talk themselves into,
Yeah.
well, he's not a bad number two. I think that's kind of where like Daniel Jones is for me, is like there's talent there, but as you said, like on one play, it could just be him like not knowing that the cornerback is like right in his receiver's face and is about to pick up the ball, or
Right.
he is incredibly turnover prone. That I think that's more of his problem than anything. Is that he's just, it's not a matter of just throwing bad picks. It's he fumbles like crazy too,
Right. I
which
think. Go ahead.
he doesn't have like the golf hands, does he? He doesn't have like the small hands.
I couldn't tell you. I'm not into it that much.
Mm, I'll have to
Um,
look back.
but I think part of it too is like maybe this is where I think he's going as a quarterback is he's going to end up like Baker, Jameis, Marcus Mariota. Um, I forget the other one that went with Marcus Mariota, but players who,
Davis.
yeah, Jameis.
Yeah.
Um, those four that got drafted by their teams as high like pick quarterbacks to lead the franchise, stay with that team through their rookie contract, go to a different team because the team that drafted didn't want him anymore, and then do poorly. Like
Yeah.
Baker's not doing well at all. Jameis is okay. He's teetering on not succeeding in New Orleans. Um, Mariota's not doing well in Atlanta,
No.
and Daniel Jones already had his fifth year option declined by the Giants. So I believe he'll be an unrestricted free agent next year. And I
Yes.
think that's exactly what's going to happen is that he's going to be shipped off to whatever mid-level contender to be a backup.
He's like the NBA or basketball has the term second draft, of these guys that get picked really high fail to meet expectations with the team that drafted them,
Right.
and then it's a matter of, okay, well, we might have a quarterback battle. Say if he goes to a team like the Falcons, who are like, okay, we traded away our franchise quarterback over the offseason. We're in a clear rebuild.
Yeah.
Second year head coach, I think, with Arthur Smith.
Yep. Will be his second next year, I believe.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's like, okay, what do we don't want to get too good too fast, because we want to have a good pick and get a blue chip talent in the draft.
Yeah.
So we'll talk ourselves into Daniel Jones, or you know,
Or get Daniel Jones to compete against oh, I forget his name, Ritter. I
yes,
think it's Desmond Ritter, but I don't want to
yeah,
misspeak. I'm gonna look it up really fast.
but that kind of
Yeah, Desmond Ritter.
scenario, whether it's the Falcons or
Whoever,
any rebuilding
any
team.
rebuilding or mid-level team that needs to give their quarterback room some depth to see if it's worth bringing him in as an average quarterback or rolling with a rookie or young guy to see what they can bring you to be able to make a decision on him soon.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in a scenario, the Packers would bring in Daniel Jones to compete against Jordan Love to see if Love can actually beat out Daniel Jones or if they move on from him, or just to have a pro ready backup for Jordan Love in case something gets hurt.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think that's gonna be his career path. But even then, like he's not a bad quarterback. He's just like you said, he can't put it together. You mentioned the fumbles. I didn't. I remember he had a fumbling problem. I was looking on the stats here. 18 fumbles his rookie year, 11,
oh,
11 his second year, 7 last year, and then 1 this year already. So he's going down.
18, that is more than a
He
game.
had 18 fumbles in 12 games started.
Oh my god,
14
that is
games total, but
abysmal.
yeah, it's he fumbles a lot. But even then, like he's talented. He just can't put it all together. Like I mentioned he's a good running quarterback. Uh, 4 games this year on 31 attempts, he has 193 rushing yards. He's averaging more yards per rush than Saquon is, which like average rushing, like average isn't the end all be all, but he's averaging 6.2 yards a carry versus
He's yeah,
Saquon's
he's
five and a
making
half.
And as you mentioned before, they're doing design runs for him. It's not
Right.
like just freewheeling and he's got a lot of time in the pocket. Which
Exactly.
also, to be fair to Daniel Jones, if considering just how much of a dumpster fire the Giants have been the last couple of years under before Dave Gettleman left, like
Right.
it was like he was set up for success, which is why his pick was such a polarizing one when it happened in the moment.
Right. And so, like, I guess part of this good rushing attack that the Giants have, I guess, stems from is that their passing attack just isn't the best.
Yeah,
Their leading receiver is Richie James, who, with all due respect to Richie James, maybe it's my ignorance, I've never heard of
sounds
him.
like a Peaky Blinders character.
I haven't heard of him. Maybe it's just he's a low string receiver that's getting more looks than the other receivers, but um lack of like talent that's panned out in the receiving room. Sterling Shepard tore his ACL last week. And for what it's worth, Sterling Shepard is second in um, yards on this team with 154, 1 yard behind Richie James. But Sterling Shepard tore his ACL last week, and then their receiving room was supposed to be led by Kenny Galladay, who was the old Lions receiver, and
And
he just hasn't been good. It just
they paid a pretty penny to get him too.
paid a pretty penny to get him, and he has played in 4 games. He has 2 receptions on 6 targets for 22 yards.
Oh,
It's not good. Like
that's
that's
not
part
good
of
at
the
all.
reason that maybe they just need to rely on this rushing attack as much as they do. But it's just because the passing game isn't working out for him. So to bring it back to this matchup this week, the Packers are going to play this game a lot like they did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The receiving room talent is going to be about on par, in my opinion, as to what um, the Buccaneers was. Like if Richie James, Wanda Robinson, if he plays, and Kenny Galladay are um, your main receivers, you're on the level of Russell Gage, Rashad Perryman, and Cole Beasley,
Who just
who just
retired
retired.
today?
So,
Yeah.
but it's that same idea, and that I think this game should go game planning wise a lot similarly to Tampa's game.
Yes. Now, of course, the caveat is whether the game planning of trying to not get burned by Saquon and limit all these explosive plays
Right?
on the ground, can that actually meet in reality? Because the Packers' run defense is just
Not good.
it's a problem.
Problem.
It's a problem regardless of whether it's Joe Barry, Mike Pettin, or going back to the days of Ed Donatel or
Ugh.
whatever it is.
Right.
Name a Packers defensive coordinator, Dom Capers, of course.
And I'll
Name a
vomit.
Packers defensive coordinator, and it's been a problem.
Right. But yeah, the explosive plays is big. I know someone posted on Twitter. I think you have that up. Is the the big plays chart is a funny one. The Packers are high up on it, but weirdly, so are the Giants.
Yes, the Giants have the 25 explosive or most big plays through. Let me start over and
Got
explain this again.
it.
The Giants have the most rushing big plays, which is a big play is considered 10 yards or more in the entire league with 25.
Yeah, they have
Uh,
29 total.
29 total, which is an incredible disparity.
It backs
That's
up everything we
incredible.
just talked about. Is that their pass game isn't good, but their rushing game is really good.
And their wide receivers cannot stay healthy or are unproductive and by cataclysmic levels.
Right. For context, listeners, breaking down that fourth wall and getting into your ears a little bit. The Packers have 35 big plays this season through 4 games. Their split is 18 rushes, 17 passes. Rushing is a rush big play being over 10 yards, a receiving big play being over 20. So, like that's a balanced attack from the Packers. The Giants have lead the league in rushing big plays at 25, as Jordan mentioned, and are last in passing big plays with 4, the next most being 8 with the Chicago Bears. Like
My
when
God.
Justin Fields and them not throwing the
Uh,
ball
and
are beating you in big plays, that's not good.
especially after having 11 attempts against the Packers.
Exactly. Like it's it's bad. It's bad. Like, when the ball's in the air in MetLife Stadium, not that good
For either team,
for either team.
that's or the Giants. Yeah, so I mean, from that standpoint, Saquon is going to be the first, second, third bullet point on the Packers defensive scouting report.
As
And
it
that's a
should be.
matter of just can they hold up? This is it's the big question. They've gotten burned by lesser running backs or tandems all throughout the season, really, at this point.
Right.
Saquon's a different animal in that regard, where it's like he can single-handedly carry the Giants to a victory.
Mm-hmm.
And that is tough. I mean, I think too, it's not even just the running game, it's the fact that they'll make any quick decision that they make to get the ball in his hands, whether it's like a pitch or doing these little screens or I don't know, beyond just hitting him the ball. Like I think that's what makes him so, such a threat. And obviously we see that with Aaron Jones and how much that gashes opposing defenses. Now it's like, okay, we see that with our own, number one running back and AJ Dillon's not far behind, but
Mm-hmm.
how do we stop that on the other side of the ball? And what can we do to really, I don't know, just limit Saquon just being able to get what he wants?
Right. No, understandably. Like it's if they can't stop Saquon, they might lose this game. It's simple enough
It's
that way.
fair.
Because if
I
they just
mean,
let Saquon get 200 yards on him, then that's a good recipe to lose the game for. And it's not like outside the realm of possibility when you have um, Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson going off, not just going off, putting up over 150 yards combined last week, and then David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert putting up big numbers in week 2 with against the Bears, and then Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison doing, I guess, as much work as they were able to when Justin Jefferson wasn't catching the ball. But they really have only shown a really good run defense against Leonard Fournette, which is in the same capacity as we talked about earlier, that this is going to be a similar game that if they focus on the run game and focus on Saquon, they should be able to hold them, but they have to buckle down and do it.
yep. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing too, is that if they have a successful run game, that means longer drives. That means controlling possession, controlling the tempo. And where the Packers got into trouble last week and have gotten into trouble uh, in each and every one of their wins at this point, actually probably every game, it's the turnovers. It's these,
Mm-hmm.
that it when the other team is playing, they don't have to be playing lights out. It's like if they're playing reasonably well and they're just kind of not coasting along, but just like connecting these drives and taking eat up clock and all that stuff. Like that is the great kind of just cancel out effect of like the Packers offense has proven to be explosive. They can make these big plays. It's not, they are showing that they have a life without Devontae Adams.
Right.
And
Exactly.
a lot of good, options at their disposal.
Mm-hmm.
But they, to kind of put this all together thematically, they also have not been able to get out of their own way,
Right.
whether it's, the fumbles or Rodgers kind of being off with his wide receivers, or just, the pick six at the end of the first half against Patriots. Like that is the kind of stuff that can easily be corrected over the course of the season, but
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't make it any less frustrating to see it happen regardless.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's like we can probably move on a little bit just from like their offense, and because I think we kind of exhausted what that'll look like. Be like Tampa. Hopefully the Packers can. We'll talk about that in a minute. The Packers can be better on offense that against the Giants as they were against Tampa. But like their defense isn't exactly a slouch either. Like they are. 10th this season in yards allowed with just over 1,300. But just ahead of them at 7th are the Packers with 1,100, almost 1,200. So the defenses have been kind of like the same. Their rush defense is really good. I'm sorry, I'm opposite. Their pass defense has been really good, allowing the like middle of the pack 18. Oh, I'm all over the place. 25th. So they've been the seventh best team in pass yards allowed, which
Mhm.
is probably emblematic of the quarterbacks they've faced in Tannehill, Cooper Rush, Justin Fields, and who was the last one?
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. So like,
6 takeaways too, I believe. And um, I'm not sure how that is divided with between interceptions and fumbles, but
right, they have no interceptions, it looks like.
wow, that is
I'm pretty sure is how I'm reading this chart
yeah,
right.
you're right. Yeah, they have forced fumbles. That is kind of impressive.
I'd say. So it'll be like protecting the ball will be important this week.
Exactly.
Romeo Dobbs looking at you, buddy. Just kidding. It's not that big of a deal. But um the rushing defense, on the other hand, has given up a lot of yards. 564 rushing yards through 4 games, good for fifth worst. Like that's just going to be the script again. That the Packers need to run the ball with Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, and then hopefully they can set up their passing game to take advantage of this lackluster pass defense.
Yep. I mean, again, you ride Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon. Hopefully, he kind of breaks free even more. With there's just a disparity between how it's gone for AJ Dillon versus Aaron Jones, who I think has the highest yards per touch
I think he
in the
does.
NFL.
I believe he does.
Which, yeah, he's just been exactly what they needed more to start the season.
Right.
But I think that's even more. That's again, this is with the game being in London. It'll be really interesting in how much of an effect it has on the game. Just like how, how does it affect the run game or how LaFleur wants to play? And I believe they're flying out today, right?
As of when this is released into the feeds,
Yes,
Thursday. They're flying
Thursday.
out Thursday.
So that is you're going to be there for 3 days and have to adjust the time. Like that is kind of it's interesting.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is just like how does that affect playing in a new surrounding, playing overseas, and just
Right.
all the things that they're going to have to get used to over the next 24 to 48 hours?
Right.
How does that affect their game plan? How does that affect like just practicing? I don't know. It's a new experience. So like it very well could be overbilled and just how different it is, but you'd be lying if there wasn't some of that kind of creepy into just how different and foreign, pun intended, the experiences.
Right. Exactly. And I think that I think the rushing game will succeed this game. I'm hoping it does. But I saw a stat earlier today on Twitter that was really kind of eye-opening too, is that like clearly through these first 4 games, the rushing game has been our bread and butter. It's been the majority of our offense um, throughout these wins. Even in I forget what we did during against the Vikings in that loss, but on this 3-game winning streak we're on, the running game has been a critical part of why we've succeeded. And Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon catching passes too. The running backs, I should say, have been a critical part of the Packers' success so far this season. But the stat I saw was that Aaron Jones has not seen an 8-man box yet this season in a rushing attempt, which is crazy. But it's sort of emblematic, not emblematic. It shows that teams are still way more afraid of Aaron Rodgers than they are of Aaron Jones, which like I'm fine with. If they want to keep letting
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Jones do Aaron Jones things, I'm good with it. Ideally, it is kind of showing itself that Rodgers isn't having his best start of a season he's ever had, but 3-1. Like the results have worked out. They've been ugly wins, but I don't think they're going to be this ugly all season. And so, ideally, defenses will learn that they can't get beat by Aaron Jones every game, otherwise they're going to be losing. and that let they'll anticipate the rush more, which is what we talked about in past pods, is that keep hammering the run so that it opens up the passing game. And I think once Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon start seeing these 8-man boxes on rushing attempts, that's when you'll start seeing Aaron Rodgers sort of become Aaron Rodgers again.
It's like the jab, jab, haymaker kind of boxing element. I mean,
Yep.
not even just that. It's, Packers have inverted their offense that I think, again, another stat that I saw on Twitter that I cannot credit properly. And I apologize. But the fact that it's where his average depth of targets or targets of
hmm
depth, a dot,
Yeah, average
I
depth of
believe
target.
super low because
Yep.
they're doing all these kind of line of scrimmage, and it's working because they have guys that can really create after the catch, and athletes, whether it's Christian Watson or obviously Dobbs, Aaron Jones,
Right.
um, and just keeping making plays. But like I certainly hope that is the case, and that this is we're seeing this kind of rope a dope going on with the Packers offense, but
Right.
I'm not in too particularly worried yet. It's just a matter of like it's going good, but when do you start to be like, okay, they're just going to leave points on the board all year?
Right.
You know
Which
what I
should,
mean?
yeah, hopefully, like that was my score prediction last week, is that I wanted them to
Yes.
absolutely blow out the Patriots, and they didn't. Like that was an end of overtime buzzer beating kick from Mason Crosby that won them the game. And they just can't be doing that against these teams. Like we talked
No.
about it last week. They have after last week, these next three games are really easy leading up to the Bills. And it's just expecting to sort of start beating the teams you're supposed to be beating by a larger margin than the 6 points they have so far already over the season.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. That's.
Yeah, and it's not like as we're touching on it against them, but like the Giants defense doesn't have like slouches. Looking at PFF's defensive grades for the season so far, they've got Dexter Lawrence, who's uh got two sacks and a bunch of pressures, and he's in the same sort of like grading area for how much you want to give worth to PFF as Von Miller and Nick Bosa, like two
That's not
really
nothing.
right. That's two really big names playing, and then it would sandwich between those guys is a guy who plays for the Giants, and then Jalen Smith and Leonard Williams are all pretty highly graded too. So it's
Thibodeau too is obviously their
yep,
big.
they're big. I think he's a rookie, isn't he? If I'm not
Yes,
mistaken.
he is. Yeah,
Yeah,
third or fifth overall. One of
fifth.
the
Yeah,
two.
Kevon Thibodeau. Yeah. So it's not like they have slouches. They're just playing the teams they're playing and ended up winning them because the other teams they're playing are bad. But they have talent and they have potential to make this game closer than it is, or than it should be, I should say. Like the talent
Yeah.
levels, like the top end talent levels for the Packers are far and above the Giants' top end pack level players if you put them all together. Like Saquon, one of the better running backs in the league, up there with Aaron Jones and Leonard Fournette and Nick Chubb, and with them of being the one of the best running backs in the league. After that, it's negligible.
Hmm. Yeah. It's. I mean, they're playing with house money at this point. That's
Exactly.
that is
That's
ultimately
a
where they're at,
great way to put it.
and they know that they're going against a Packers team that has 3-1, but has been underwhelming in every one of their games.
Yep.
Um, so that makes for an even more interesting experience. I mean, the Packers are going to be facing that largely with every team that they play against,
Right.
outside of a few key exceptions as we've gone over with the schedule and stuff like that. But like,
hmm
I think that's even more relevant in a game like this where it's a neutral field. It's being played 6 hours away from the United States.
Right.
All these kind of weird factors that normally don't get, accounted for in an NFL game outside of just like the Super Bowl. Um, is it's present here, and it's just a matter of, okay, which team can block out the noise and just kind of, I don't know, just keep going full steam ahead.
Exactly. And it's just like I really want to see a lot of what we saw last week with Romeo Dobbs and Alan Lazard, like start getting them more involved. Not getting them more involved; they're 1-2 receivers on the team, but making sure we keep running Romeo Dobbs off the line of scrimmage and down the field. Like we talked about it on Sunday's pod, post game pod. I'm sorry, Monday's post game pod about just the pure athleticism that Romeo Dobbs has and how he just is able to go make plays and catch the ball and really be a positive for the offense. I'd like to still see Christian Watson get some stuff down the field rather than using him in the Amari Rogers preseason role we talked about, sort of the gadget jet sweeps, stuff like that. Like he got his first touchdown last week on a something just like that because he is so fast. But at the same time, if he's that quick, I don't anticipate the Giants cornerbacks being able to keep up with someone like Christian Watson. And if they can, more power to them. But who knows if these guys will be able to just keep up with an Aaron Rodgers led passing attack with somebody with as much speed as Christian Watson has.
Mhm.
That's my
Absolutely.
expectation.
Yeah.
Um, anything else, Jordan? I'm looking through defense. Gotta play big. Keep feeding the rookies.
Yeah.
Bakhtiari.
I mean,
We'll talk about Bakhtiari a little bit.
Bakhtiari. Yes, let's do it.
He played 70 snaps on Sunday. Adam Stenavich in his press conference today said that this is from Matt Schneidman, quote that was encouraging. He did a great job. You can still see he's building back to where he was, but he did a great job. So he's not David Bakhtiari of old, the all-pro left tackle that we've come to love, but he's getting there. I thought he
Mhm.
played well on Sunday, and I'm hoping that he can keep that momentum going this week.
Yep.
Um, maybe it's just the layman in me and not understanding that these NFL players probably have luxurious flights over to London. But a man the size of David Bakhtiari's stature, I'd feel like is a long flight for a big guy coming off an ACL injury and a back injury.
Yeah, I
I'm
don't think it's
hoping nothing
still.
crops up, but I'd imagine they have stuff to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's still not comfortable
Right,
to be in a plane for that long, and
right. Some hope. Here's hoping nothing crops up and they ends up playing and protecting Aaron Rodgers' backside as he has had for the better part of a decade.
mhm.
So overall, the line I think is in good shape. We never did go through the injury report, so I'll go through that now
Oh
briefly
yeah,
just to talk
yes,
about it. Limited for the Packers this week was Jair Alexander. Bakhtiari, as I'm pretty sure he's going to be all season anyways, as we talk about each week. EJ, Alan Lazard with his ankle again, which again we talked about last week. I think Lazard and Bakhtiari are going to be on the injury report all season or a majority of the season with these same injuries just so that they can limit them and not overwork them, given that the veterans that they are. Um, Josh Myers with a foot and Devontae Wyatt with a quad. So I'm not concerned that Devontae Wyatt's there on the injury report, but I'd like to see him play to continue building off the momentum he's been um, playing with these last couple of games. He had a good play on Sunday, shutting blocks, doing things like that. I want to keep seeing him build and become that first round pick potential he has, or um, fulfill that first round potential he has.
absolutely. Yeah.
And then for the Giants, their injury report is a lot longer, with a lot more DMPs than I'm sure they'd like. Um, I'll just go through the big names that we've kind of talked about that you'll recognize. Kenny Galladay did not participate. Neither did Richie James, their leading receiver. Um, Julian Love is out in concussion protocol. One of their DBs. They have one, two, three, four DBs on this injury report. Tyrod Taylor is also in concussion protocol. And then Henry Mondu, a defensive lineman, did not participate as well. But it's going to be interesting how the Giants come into this game with their quarterback room because if Daniel Jones can't go, they'll need to play their backup, and I don't know if we know who that will be yet. But
Bailey Zappi.
um, so yeah, it'll be really important that Daniel Jones can go and can stay upright if he is going to play. Like that'll be a problem, an issue. And if he can't run with on an ankle, I think it'll limit their offense even more.
Hmm.
So, but then limited in participation was Evan Neal, their offensive lineman, their first round pick this year. Fabian Moreau, one of their D backs. Kadarius Tooney with a hamstring, and Leonard Williams, a defensive lineman with a knee injury. So, but Daniel Jones did have limited participation today, Wednesday, with his ankle. I believe I saw on Twitter he was running around, passing on the run. So he's seemingly okay, but we'll see.
Yeah, to your point of they worked out a lot of quarterbacks this week. Some names: Jake Fromm of Georgia
Oh,
fame,
old
AJ
old
McCarron,
Georgia, another Georgia. No, AJ McCarron was Alabama.
Alabama, who I thought retired.
SEC fans are in my menchies.
Brian Luricki.
No idea.
Don't know. Sorry, Brian.
Sorry, Brian.
But yeah,
At least your name's not
they
Axel.
Axel Luricki.
Axel Lurkey.
Yeah, so they were working a lot of. Also, I believed, uh, wasn't there some like Odell Beckham thing of like he was in for a visit?
Not that I
I
saw.
I think there was Justina Anderson said something about that, which I don't think is he even medically cleared?
No, he's not. No, no, no.
Yeah. So maybe it's just something down the road if the Giants are like, I don't know,
The
10-5.
only the only Odell news that I saw was
Oh,
the that Rodgers and him really enjoy talking together. They apparently talk often. So,
hmm,
but I think Odell is talking often to a lot of players in the NFL. He's seemingly pretty close with everybody, it seems. Like Von Miller, his old teammate from the Super Bowl last year, Von Miller said they talk. Aaron Rodgers. I'm guessing Odell just might have a lot of friends in the league. Is my
probably.
guess. So,
Yeah,
yeah, I'd be surprised to see him if he signed with the Giants again. I don't know why he'd go there.
that'd be weird. Be very
Because,
weird.
like, yeah, he can't. Um, oh, Von Miller said that he went. Because to rewind, Von Miller said that this is from Aliana Getzenberg, a Bills reporter for ESPN. Von Miller said he talks to Odell Beckham Jr. every week and that he's sure the wide receiver could see him fitting in with the Bills. Miller said OBJ is, quote, is going on a tour now. He's going to the Giants practice facility and the Saints and Tampa and all that stuff, which he should.
Hmm.
So I'm sure ODB is doing all of his tours to see who wants to sign with once he's returns from his ACL injury,
Yeah,
which I'm not saying we need him as a receiver, but would be a great addition to a
it's
receiver
gonna
room.
pop up again.
I was talking with somebody at work and is like, the Packers never get game changers like Von Miller or ODB or any of these guys that are really impact players. And that's part of the reason why they don't like, kind of go that extra step in the playoffs every year. Is they don't have difference makers. And I think depending on how he comes back from his ACL injury, Odell Beckham could be that guy, but there's no fire to that smoke.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
just
just
us speculating.
yeah, exactly. But I'm sure it'll be a popular topic again.
I'm
When
sure it will once he's medically cleared and stuff like that. So
it
Jordan, anything else regarding this week's footy match over in London?
do we do skull
Score
predictions?
predictions. Let's do it. You go. You want me to go first? I think I made you go first every time now.
Yeah, you go first. I'm still debating.
I really want it to be like 56-10 because it really should be. They have more talent than the Giants. The Packers have more talent than the Giants do, and it really should be like that. It's not going to be because that's just not how these things work. I'm gonna go a little more reserved than my prediction last week. I will say 30-17.
Breaking the one score spell for the Giants.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I'm in the mode of until the Packers prove that they can put together a complete performance, not get in their own way and cup up the ball or force these mistakes upon themselves that they have
hmm
to overcome. The games are gonna get a little tighter. So I'm gonna say a weird score, but it'll make sense. 26-21 Packers. I think Mason Crosby has a lot of field goals.
That'd be big.
The crowd will love Mason.
That's 4 field goals for Mason Crosby, which means we're driving and not getting into the end zone, which means we'd have a lot to talk about on Sunday.
Yes.
Like, I'm all for Mason Crosby doing
Which
his thing.
honestly would be better than them. I mean, it's still frustrating, but it would be better than them fumbling or throwing a
Not
pick.
scoring and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. Folks, get your beans and your toast ready, your tea and your milk. It is an 8:30 kickoff Sunday morning. Get your jammies on,
Your fish
nice
and
warm
chips.
blanket. Fish and chips is for after the game.
Oh, that's true.
You have to prep it, let it go in the fridge for a little bit. As any Wisconsinite knows, you got to put your fish breaded in the fridge before you fry it. And 6:30, or I'm sorry, 8:30 a.m. NFL Network. So if you have NFL Network, good for you. If you don't, find a stream.
Yep.
Or follow along on Gamecast, do what you do, but try to tune in for one of the historic games in NFL history and Packers history. I'm excited for it. I'll be happy regardless until the Packers start to play poorly, and then I'll stop being happy about the history.
Yeah. The
So,
spectacle will be lost, and then it's like, oh,
spectacle will be lost the second the Packers win the toss, defer, and the Giants drive the field for a touchdown. I think they are 0-4 on uh, drive, like the first drive of the game. They have not stopped another team from scoring. So
Is that true?
it is. I'm almost certain it is. The Vikings, Bears, Bucks, and Patriots have all scored in the first drive of the game, whether it's a touchdown or field goal.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can get stop numero uno
Yeah.
this week. So all right, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Be sure to check out all of our GSPN family episodes this week. The Brewers unfortunately went out in very sad fashion today against the Diamondbacks, but Andrew and Adam will have the pod recap up for you today as well, Thursday. So go check that out. Give them some support as they wrap up the Brewer season. Ty and Rohan are right back at Bucks coverage, talking about the media day. That was a couple weeks ago, but then the preseason the first game was last week, and now
Yes.
the Bucks are overseas, just like the Packers are, doing a couple preseason games against the Hawks. And if I'm not mistaken, Jordan, you and Adam released a pod today, Wednesday, about that, right?
Yes, we did. We talked about the fact that they are playing games in Abu Dhabi. And it's not without some controversy or things getting under the rug, and it's necessary conversations to have. And I mean, I'm sure some people won't like it, but I know Adam. Like Adam. I felt it was necessary to talk about, especially when it's essentially just going to be a promotion for for the specific region of the world.
Yeah, yeah. Let's just say the NBA once again punted on a human rights issue where it could have made a stand.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
absolutely.
but alas, please check out all of the pods. We're doing a lot of good work over here, at least in my opinion. Had the Eurostep Podcast Network and Blue Wire Pods, so GSPN.info to get all that stuff. Go to Spotify and Apple Podcasts for future podcasts. Leave a review, leave a rating. A 5-star rating goes a long way for us. I love reading your reviews. We need to get some fresh new ones in there, so please
Get the fresh ones in. Come
come
on.
on. Oh, come on, in it. We just need some reviews.
4-star review.
That's a 5-star reviews. Do it for the Queen and her memory. We gotta stop. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Jordan, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.